Hey everybody, early registration is now open on next spring's Planetary Yoga Webinar Course. If you register between now and the 14th of December, you'll get a 15% discount off the course registration fee. You can register for the course either by payment in full or by trimester. And towards the middle of this next coming video, there will be a link so that you can go visit the course page for details. Hello everybody. I thought I'd talk today about something that I've been asked over and over again as an astrologer, which is there some remedy that you can give me to make me a millionaire? My reply in these circumstances, usually to the individual, is, well, number one, if millionaire isn't indicated in your horoscope, then there's not really a remedy that's going to activate that in your horoscope. And if millionaire is indicated in your horoscope, then you don't really necessarily need a remedy to make that happen. The remedy may increase the potential for it, and equally, if you don't have millionaire indicated in your horoscope, then the remedy may do something to make your financial status a little bit better. But the fact of the matter boils down to the concept that if millionaire isn't indicated in your horoscope, then it's going to be difficult to reach that height with the planetary remedy. And if millionaire is indicated in your horoscope, then you don't need to do the remedy to make it happen. It will just increase the amount that's there if you're using a remedy in that particular instance. So I thought I'd do a video today on one particular example of some combinations in one particular horoscope that were wealth and success producing combinations. The technique that I'm using in determining this is a technique that's taken from my upcoming How to Make Planetary Yogas Work webinar course, which if you're interested in registering for that course, much like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, you can do so through the link above. So we're looking today at the chart of John Paul Getty, who was born at the end of the 19th century. He was the son of a rich oil merchant. So he was born into financial status. So in terms of potential in a horoscope, okay, we can have yogas in a horoscope that can create things. We can have yogas for, happy marriages. We can have yogas for success. We can equally have yogas for difficult things. But it's the strength or the weakness of those particular planets that determines how productive that yoga is going to be. And this is why you can look at your own horoscope and you may see some wealth producing yogas in your horoscope, and you get really excited about a particular period of time that is going to come around when those would be activated. And suddenly you find that you only got a small increase in pay when you were expecting things to, be really substantial at that particular time. And the reason for that is the planets that were creating the yoga, they just weren't strong enough to bring a lot of potential to that particular yoga. So the yoga will, still produce the fruits, but only to a minute amount. So we need to have very strong planets in order to create the strongest results. And the strength is not a simple matter of going, oh, well, this planet's in this dignity or that planet's in that dignity. Really, it has to be judged on several different scales. Some of the things that are taken into consideration in determining this are, number one, the potency of the planet, right? That potency is judged by something called Uchabala, okay? In addition to Uchabala, we want to look at how confident that planet is in its strength, and that's something that's determined through Chestabala, okay? In addition to that, we want to see, is there the merit in the person's chart for that planet to produce good results, or is there more difficult merit? In other words, the individual has incurred difficult karma from previous lifetimes, and those yogas aren't going to produce the fruits, okay? In addition to that, it's helpful to see, good, strong Digbala. So it's a combination of all these things that really determine how successful a planet is going to be. And if one of those areas is weak, it begins to pull down the strength of the yoga. So we're looking at a particular horoscope, as I mentioned, of John Paul Getty. His father was a rich oil merchant. And so his wealth, as I said at the beginning, just to remind you, it came from family wealth. But it was something that he equally increased upon at a particular point in his life. And we're going to look at a particular year in his life, which was 1916, in the summer of 1916, the year before John Paul Getty's father had given him several $1,000s to invest in some oil fields. And basically those oil fields proved successful. And by the following year, which is the period of time that we're looking at, John Paul Getty had become a millionaire. So during that time, as you can see, he was in Saturn, Moon, and Jupiter. And in his particular horoscope, Saturn and Jupiter are two of the strongest wealth-producing planets in terms of being involved in wealth-producing yogas. And we're going to look at a couple of those yogas right now. So I'm going to bring up the yoga screen just to point them out to us. We have one particular yoga that's called Gauri Yoga. Okay, as you can see, it says here, the Navamsha Lord of the 10th Lord joins the Lagna Lord in the 10th and is exalted. Okay, that's a very complex thing. So let's point it out down here. So I'm going to shut that down for just a moment. And I'm going to open up another Navamsha chart here. Okay, and then I'll open the yoga screen back up. Okay, so let's point these things out. The Navamsha Lord of the 10th Lord. Well, the 10th Lord here is Venus, because Venus rules Libra. So 12th, 11th, 10th. These are house cusps you're seeing here, so you don't have to pay attention to that. So Venus's Lord in the Navamsha chart is Saturn. Okay, so the Navamsha Lord of the 10th Lord joins the Lagna Lord. Well, the Navamsha Lord of the 10th Lord is Saturn, and Saturn is the Lagna Lord here. And it's in the 10th, and Saturn is exalted. So Saturn is one of the strongest yogas in this horoscope. So Gauri basically was noted for being very austere. Okay, practicing austerities. And even though this is more of a negative manifestation of someone being austere, John Paul Getty was well noted for being a miser. So he was very austere with his money, right? And if you can see here, it says one is charitable and praised. Well, he was that on a certain level, only it had to happen in a certain way. He was charitable in giving to the arts at a certain point. Okay, he came from a good family, owned land. I don't know about his children. Okay, so basically, when we look at this, the emphasis, let's see what it says here, if there's anything else that we're missing, other than the fact that it gives wealth, which is the important thing that we're looking at. So during that time, too, Jupiter would have been creating some important yogas by Jupiter creating a Gajakesari yoga. So this particular Gajakesari yoga involves Jupiter being in an angle from the Lagna, and here we see Jupiter in the 4th, and joined or aspected by a benefic. Here it's aspected by Venus. In this particular instance, I'm not pointing out the moon because the moon is waning here. Avoiding at the same time debilitation. So it's not debilitated, it's not in an inimical sign, and it's also not combust. And we see with this particular yoga that one will be splendorous, wealthy. I don't know about long-lived because I don't know how long he lived. One will destroy like a lion all his enemies and conquer everything by his own valor. But the important thing that we're looking at is the wealth production of this. And so Jupiter and Saturn in his chart were phenomenally strong in terms of producing wealth. And this was the time that he really came into his wealth. Let's take a look at some other yogas too, though, which are very simple yogas, but I like using quite often. And they're the 144 bhava yogas that Parashara gives us. So I'm going to bring those up on the screen for us. So we're looking at Saturn. Saturn's the lord of the ascendant in the second. So the Lagna lord in the 10th. One born is possessed with happiness from father, and that he had. Respected by kings, or it's somebody who's famous, known to people, and he was known to people, and will without doubt have self-acquired wealth. Well, he had both happiness from father in forms of wealth, and equally had self-acquired wealth. Wealth lord abiding in the karma house. One born is lustful, esteemed, learned, joined with many wives and great wealth, though happiness from children is abandoned. And there was something that happened with one of his children being kidnapped, and he was so miserly that he didn't want to pay the ransom fee for his son. Okay, so now let's look at Jupiter's yogas. Jupiter's the 3rd and the 12th lord here. So standing in the happy house, the lord of brother, possesses happiness and is joined with wealth. The one born is wise and endures, supporting a spoilt spouse. I don't know much about his marriage, but I'm sure we'd find that that may have been the case to a certain extent, although to a lesser extent. Jupiter, even though it's strong, equally has a strong level of difficult associations with it. So you'd probably find the latter here was equally coming into the equation. When we look at the Lord of the 12th, deprived of maternal happiness, day by day decrease among his land, vehicles, etc. I don't know about this latter portion here, but we know that he was miserly with his money. But Jupiter had stronger positive potential than it did stronger negative potential. So it produced more of the strong concrete results. Here's something interesting too. When we go in and we look at the core yoga for the Gajacesari yoga that Jupiter's creating, it says that the houses that Jupiter rules will determine where that wealth comes from. Okay, so the 12th house especially indicates ancestors. So his money came primarily from his ancestors. So that's a meaningful portion of this too. But I wanted to point this out because yogas are a really excellent way of learning about the potential of a horoscope. I find that for the most part, though, people get into looking at yogas without learning how to properly qualify the strength or the weakness of that yoga. In other words, they just look at the yoga being there and they think that something is going to happen, and to a large extent, but they never learn how to properly qualify the strength of those yogas. So those are important things to understand, and it is something that I will be teaching on the approaching webinar course that starts this spring. There is a 15% discount available if you pre-register for this course before the 14th of December. You get a 15% discount, as I mentioned. And if you wish to do so or would like to find further information on the course, I'm going to point to the link here in just a moment. But on this course, we'll learn how to appropriately qualify the strength or weakness of a yoga, as well as learning several of the most reliable yogas to work with. And we'll work with countless examples. This is going to be a 44-week webinar course. You can register for this course either in full or by trimester. And if you register by trimester, the discount is locked in for all subsequent trimesters. And if you're interested in registering, you can do so at the link above. That's going to do it for this look at wealth-producing yogas. Until next time, please do take the very best care of yourself. Bye now.